I remember that morning vividly. The sun poured through the small kitchen window, casting warm stripes across the floor. I was 10 years old, perched in my wheelchair, trying to reach for my cereal. My mother stood by the door, her coat already on, her expression calm and determined. "I have to go on a business trip, honey," she said, brushing a strand of hair behind her ear. "I'll be back soon." "Don't worry," I gripped the armrests of my chair tighter, my small hands trembling. "Don't leave me, Mom," I whispered, my voice cracking. "Please, I need you here." She smiled, a practiced, soft smile. "You'll be fine, I promise," she said, bending down to kiss my forehead. Then she walked out the door, clicking the lock behind her. I waited. Minutes felt like hours, hours like days. I thought she would return any moment, but she didn't. Days passed, and then weeks. I asked neighbors, relatives. No one had seen her. "She's busy," they said. But deep down, I knew the truth. She had left me. That night, I curled up on the couch, staring at the ceiling. "Why would she leave me?" I whispered to myself. The silence in the apartment was suffocating, a weight pressing on my chest. That was the first moment I realized that life could be cruel, even when it seemed safe. The apartment became a place of echoes and shadows. Every time the door creaked, I hoped it was her. Every phone call that wasn't her made me flinch. I learned the bitter taste of abandonment early. Social workers came and went, leaving behind paperwork and empty smiles. I spent hours in my wheelchair, staring at the walls decorated with remnants of a childhood that felt stolen. The birthday I had celebrated alone, the Christmas mornings without presents, all these moments piled onto my small frame, shaping me in ways I didn't yet understand. School was no reprieve. Children stared, whispered, and pointed. "Why's your mom not here?" they asked, their voices a mix of curiosity and pity. I learned to nod, to smile politely, to hide the rage and heartbreak that simmered inside me. Teachers tried to help, but even their kindness couldn't fill the hole inside. I discovered books, my first refuge. Each story was a portal to a world where abandonment didn't exist, where heroes triumphed and justice prevailed. I clung to the words, letting them soothe my aching heart. Art became my second sanctuary. I painted landscapes of forests I'd never walked through, cities I'd never visited, imagining myself moving freely through the world I could only see in my mind. Foster homes and hospitals became my reality. Each placement brought new faces, new routines, and yet the same absence, her absence. Some nights I cried silently in my bed, listening to the distant hum of life that wasn't mine. Despite the hardships, I learned resilience. I became fiercely independent, navigating life on my own terms. I learned which words to speak and which to swallow. I mastered the art of invisibility, hiding my pain beneath a careful mask. Some foster families were kind, others indifferent, but none could replace the warmth I had once imagined in my mother's embrace. I grew cautious, protective, and wary of trusting anyone too deeply. Love can vanish in an instant, I reminded myself. Don't let it happen again. By my teenage years, I had built a routine: school, therapy, painting, reading. I immersed myself in hobbies, finding solace in worlds I could control. My wheelchair didn't define me, but it reminded me daily of what I had lost. I began writing letters to her, even though I knew she would never read them. I forgive you, one would start, only for me to cross it out and write, no, I hate you. The conflicting emotions were exhausting. Anger, longing, and sadness wove together into a tapestry that I carried quietly, never letting others see the threads unraveling. At 20, I had a small apartment of my own, a remote job that allowed me to work independently, and a handful of friends who understood my world. I felt stronger, capable, even if the scars remained. Then, one crisp autumn evening, she appeared. Standing on the street, frail and gray-haired, I froze. My mother, the woman who had left me 20 years ago, now trembling, eyes brimming with tears. I'm so sorry, she whispered. I, I made a mistake. Please, let me be part of your life again. I laughed bitterly. 20 years. 20 years and now you want to come back? My voice shook, not with fear but with a storm of anger and disbelief. She sank to her knees, crying openly. Please, I'll do anything. Just give me a chance. The first weeks were unbearable. She followed me, sent messages, called constantly. I ignored most of them, alternating between rage and the faint, painful hope that she could be real this time. Finally, I agreed to meet her at a cafe. She arrived quietly, not daring to sit until I gestured. She didn't argue or excuse herself. She simply said, I know I don't deserve this. I just want to know you. I studied her face, noting the lines time had carved, the frailty she could never hide. Part of me recoiled. Part of me remembered the mother I had longed for, even as a child. We met slowly over weeks, sometimes over lunch, sometimes just for a walk. She listened more than she spoke, offered help only when needed, and never demanded forgiveness. I tested her, pushing back with my anger, reminding her of the pain she caused. She never defended herself, only nodded and apologized. Her patience, her humility, and her persistence slowly began to chip away at my defenses. For the first time in decades, I considered that maybe she wasn't just seeking redemption for herself. Maybe she truly wanted to connect with me. She remembered my favorite foods, my books, even the small routines I had created. She didn't insist on being called Mom. She respected my space and my pace. I allowed her to help me with small tasks, feeling the mix of resentment and relief that her presence brought. She laughed softly at my jokes, listened to my frustrations, and sometimes, just sometimes, I felt a flicker of the bond I had imagined as a child. Every encounter stirred old memories. Birthdays spent alone, Christmas mornings empty, hospital visits without her hand to hold mine. I remembered sobbing silently in my bed, wishing she would appear at the door, whispering, I'm here, it's okay. I also remembered the dreams I had built in her absence, worlds full of possibility, strength forged in solitude. The past and present collided, creating a swirl of conflicting emotions I struggled to untangle. Months passed. Our relationship remained fragile, but present. I allowed her to be part of my life in small, controlled ways. We shared stories, walked in parks, sometimes cooked meals together. She never rushed, never pressed. And slowly, I began to see the woman beneath the mistakes. A human who had faltered, who had lost, who had carried the weight of her decisions. One evening, we sat on my apartment balcony, watching the sun sink into the horizon. I know I can never make up for the past, she said quietly, but I want to spend whatever time we have now showing you I love you. I hesitated, the words stuck in my throat. I didn't say I forgave her. I didn't say I loved her. I said only, I'll try. It was enough, for now. A fragile hope took root, tentative and unsteady, but real. Life did not magically return to what it could have been. The years of absence could not be erased. But slowly we built a new rhythm, fragile and deliberate. I allowed her presence, not fully trusting, but choosing to hope. I learned that love could be reclaimed in small gestures, patience and honesty. And though the past remained a shadow, I realized that the present offered a chance to feel connection, forgiveness, and perhaps, one day, peace.